So to give you an example of two-dimensional array, consider this as your memory space. And as you know that in one-dimensional array, it shows the storage of information in a linear fashion towards one direction. Now for two-dimensional array, it means that we are storing the information in two dimensions. That is, let's say for that, first of all, we create a one dimension. Let's say we are allocating two memory spaces wherein we are storing the name Tina, Rahul. Okay, so this is a simple one-dimensional array with having two memory spaces. Now, as you know, we have seen the coordinates wherein suppose we have x and y coordinates. The x coordinate is in one dimension, whereas the x and y combined is two dimension. So similarly, in this way, allocation of the memory in two dimensions will be in this fashion. Okay, so we are allocating these four blocks of memory. 0, 1, this is one dimension, and 0, 1, again this is one dimension, horizontally and vertically. So let's say we put few more names, Raj, Pankaj. So we have saved the data in two dimension now. Now we can do the same thing in one dimension. Even in one dimension we had four spaces, whereas we are having the four spaces in say a similar way in two dimension. The only difference is the way in which we declare. So let's see how we declare this. So we have a animals variable. We'll declare it in two dimension using 1, 1. Okay. Now this is the memory space which I've allocated. Now the first one, here as you can see the upper limit of the index, it can save two values for one dimension. So it will be 2 minus 1, 1. And similarly for this, it will be 0, 1, that is 1. Now let's say I need to add more names. Yash, Riya. Okay, so this will be 2. Now if you see, I have changed the dimension now. So I can similarly allocate the space over here as 2, 1. Since my one of the dimension is having 3 values and the other one is can store 2 values. So it will be a product of these two. Now how do I present each of these cells, each of this memory space? It is the interference of the two dimensions in your memory space. So suppose this is 0, so this entire column belongs to the 0 memory space, and this entire row belongs to the 0 memory space. So Tina will have 0, 0. Similarly Rahul, if we take a row as starting with the row, then it will be 0, 1, right? And similarly Raj, the row is 1, the column is 0. And for Pankaj it will be 1, 1. So in this way I can point out to each of the memory location, and I can fetch the values, or I can assign the values to this memory location. So the next step is pretty much the same for one dimension or two dimensional array, that is allocating the values to it. So let's say 0, 0 I'm allocating to Tina. Okay, so now this is a simple case of hard coding. Now these values which you are allocating, you can fetch it from data table as well, or from environment variable, or from some other action. So there are different ways. This is just for example, I'm just giving you a hard-coded value, but once you start your programming based on your requirement, you can fetch the values from anywhere you want and you can store it in an array. Okay, so it's pretty much the same. I'm assigning value to my array, different memory spaces. Okay, so for this array I can save 6 spaces, okay, because 2 upper limit, it is 2, which can save 3 memory spaces. That is, when it has 2, it can save 3 memory spaces over here, and when the other dimension has 1, that is, it can save 2 memory spaces over here. So 3 into 2, that is 6 values I can save for my array. So when you're declaring a 2, 1 array, it can save 6 memory spaces. And similarly, if you declare 1, 2 array, even the same array can declare, the same array can save 6 spaces in that. So this was about declaring an array. Now this is a simple scalar array. There are dynamic arrays as since I've already declared the space, that is, I've allocated the memory to my array. I call this a static array because once I've allocated the memory, only I can use only that. I'm limited to this memory space for my particular array. We can have a dynamic array wherein we have not declared the space. Suppose I want to store a series of animal names in A animals. So I'm declaring an array, but at this point of time QTP doesn't know whether this is an A animal is an array or not. And I don't know the size of my array. I don't know how many names of animals I want to store. So at this point I'll just keep it as A animals, okay? I'm not allocating any space to it. Let's say I'll take the value from the user, that how many values he wants to enter, how many animal names he wants to enter. So let's say we keep it in the variable iCount, which will have the count of all the number of variables you want to put in animals. That is the number of animal names you want to put, and we'll take the input from user. Okay, so input box is a QTP function wherein it displays the input to the user. It takes the input from the user. So you'll see when I run this code how it works. How many animal names you want to enter. So what this code does is it will take the count, that is, it will display how many animal names you want to enter, and it will take the input from the user and it will put it in iCount variable. Okay, so in this way we'll know the size which the user wants to enter, size of the animals, number of the animals which user want to enter. And now what we can do is we can allocate the size to the array. Now since I know the size of my array by using redeem. So what the redeem does is it allocates the space to my variable which was not earlier decided, and I just have to simply give the name of my variable and in brackets iCount, since that will be the size of my, if I'm entering 5 animals, or say I'm entering 4 animals, so 4 memory location will be needed, memory spaces will be needed. Okay, so the value of the index should be 3, since the highest value of the index is 3. This should be count minus 1, right? So I'll put iCount minus 1. Okay, so once I've declared this, I can use this to save the value of the animals in my animals array. So let's take the value from user himself again. Okay, so this is a for loop. You know, you have used for loop before, so I won't go much into depth. So what for loop does is it will run the loop for the particular number of iterations. So suppose I'm giving for I equal to 0 to, okay, iCount. So it will run the loop for these many number of times. I'll give iCount minus 1 since I want to run it for iCount minus 1 number of times. Okay, and we'll take the input from user himself again and we'll put it in the array. Okay, now this array is A animals, and we have to just put the value of the animals in the array. Okay, and we are taking all the values from the user. So let's say please enter animal, please enter animal name. So what this loop will do is initially the value of I will be 0 for first iteration. The array index will be 0. So for 0 array index we'll enter the animal name. Now for next iteration the value of I will be 1. Suppose the I count is 4, we are adding the 4 animal names. So this loop will run from 0 to 4 minus 1, that is 0 to 3. So it will run 4 times, that is for values 0, 1, 2 and 3. So for value 0 I have already put a animal name. For second iteration, that is value I equal to 1, we are putting the value in the animals array for the index 1. So in this way, the loop will run 4 times, and for 0, 1, 2, 3 index, we are putting the values in the array. Okay, so and let's just display the value of any particular location, memory location for this array. Let's say the last value 3. Now when I run the script, okay, it will ask the user in this format. It will have OK cancel button, how many animals names you want to enter, which will go in my variable I count. Now suppose I want to enter 4 as I told you earlier. Okay, now why we are getting variable is undefined, because we have not defined it in dim. Since we are using option explicit, we have to define each and every variable over here. So let's say we remove option explicit for now and run. We put 4, enter animal name. So it will run, the loop will run for 4 times, starting with 0 and ending with 3. So let's say animal name is A, D, C, D. So the loop has run 4 times, and it is displaying the last animal index, that is the third animals bracket 3, which shows the last value which we had entered for the animals array, which was D. So in this way, you can see how we have used dynamic array, that is for the array for which we didn't know what's the memory space we want to allocate. We can just redeem it at runtime, and we can anywhere in between we can just redeem it. We can give the memory space to it, and then we can add values accordingly. So this was about static and dynamic arrays. So these are some of the subtypes of the variant which you'll be using in your script, that is integer, string, array. These are very common.